Good morning or afternoon, everyone, depending upon where you are, and welcome to our webinar on automating the financial close with BlackLine. My name is Ken Wolf, and before we talk a little bit about BlackLine and get into the details of the presentation content, I want to just cover some introductory remarks before we get going. So, again, I'm Ken Wolf. I'm the CEO at Revelwood, and just for those of you who don't know who we are a solution provider, and we specialize in solutions for the Office of Finance. And we've been working with financial professionals for over 25 years. We work with a number of different vendors, which I'll talk about. We have many implementations of various kinds of financial solutions, especially focusing on FP&A. Our team consists of a consulting team of experienced consultants that come from both finance and technology backgrounds, and we blend that together to ensure that we're able to offer these technology solutions that speak business first and don't just focus on the technology. A little bit about what we cover. Now, please advance the slide. Thank you. So Revelwood historically has focused on the FP&A, so planning, reporting, and analysis, sort of the left side of this circle. A few years ago, we began expansion more broadly into Office of Finance, and recently entered into partnerships with two other companies, BlackLine, which specializes in financial close automation. We'll be talking about that today, and another company, Fluence Technologies, which focuses on Consolidate. And it's all part of our broad vision to enable us to provide and offer solutions broadly across the Office of Finance in various different areas. Today, we're going to be focusing on BlackLine and the financial close. So, next slide, please. So just a quick introduction to BlackLine, and then I'm going to turn the session over to our presenter for today. BlackLine is the leader in modern accounting, and it is recognized by Gartner in the Leaders Quadrant in this particular area. They have been around for a long time and have developed a very impressive platform, which you'll see today, that really helps to automate that financial close process. And our partnership together will ensure that we have rapid deployment and really high quality delivery of that type of solution. But rather than me going on about the company and the background and all that, we're really here to show you what modern accounting with BlackLine is all about and how we automate the financial close. So I want to introduce my colleague, our practice leader, Adam Riskin. He heads up the financial close and Consolidate practice here at Revelwood. And he's got many years of experience in this field and with various products as well, various financial products on all sides in terms of everything that Revelwood covers, including and especially financial close automation. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Adam.
All right, thanks, Ken. And thanks everybody for joining us today. First off, I just want to give a quick introduction about myself. I'm actually a former accountant. So my degree's in finance. I started off early on as an accountant. And early on, I got involved with some of the IT aspects of accounting. So I was doing things like writing Excel functions and macros and building reports and access databases, all to help automate some of the repetitive tasks that I was having to do each month. And so after a few years of that, I ended up going full time into the financial systems world. So I was doing things like managing ERP systems and financial planning systems and that kind of stuff. And although I was always IT centric, I still worked directly with the accounting team. So I always reported to someone within the CFO's organization. So I got to see firsthand all the work that takes place in accounting. You guys, there's a ton of work that you have to do. There's super tight deadlines. And there's just the repetitive nature of it that next month end close cycle is just on the horizon. And then, on top of it all, top of that, there's, always some kind of monkey wrench that would get thrown at you guys. So, things like a new acquisition or some kind of CFO initiative or, some kind of additional reporting requirement that would get, plopped on your plate. And so you were always required to do all that new stuff, but you still had to maintain of doing the day-to-day tasks like the month-end close and those types of things. So for me, my enjoyment was always around using technology to help make accounting folks' lives better, right? We always were able to use software to reduce some of the repetition and eliminate some of the manual processes. And that opened up the door to do more value add activities. And that's typically what people enjoy doing more and what companies need. So here at Revelwood as the financial close and consolidation practice leader, I get to continue that journey with BlackLine. Okay. So just the agenda for the presentation. What I'll go through first is some of the challenges with traditional manual accounting. And then I'll get into what BlackLine calls their modern accounting playbook. And essentially what that is BlackLine's software offering for new clients and their implementation methodology. And lastly, we'll go through some existing BlackLine customers and walk through their case studies. Okay. All right. So traditional manual accounting processes, they're just not sustainable. And this is really why BlackLine exists. So for a lot of accounting teams, right, the tool of choice is Excel. Excel does a lot of great things. It's got a lot of functionality to it, but there are some limitations to it. For one, it's pretty manual, right? You gotta key in data points into spreadsheets. You got to pull information from other systems and key it in. It's just manual and time consuming to do. It also opens up the door for a little bit of lack of control, right? So if you are using spreadsheets, it's possible to key in some information incorrectly. It's possible to delete something by accident. It's possible to break a formula. There's not a way to control that or prevent those things from happening. And another thing is it does create a decentralized file repository, right? So now you got all these files across a file share. Usually the accountant who puts all the information together knows where all these artifacts are, but it might be harder for someone downstream, like a manager or a controller, to know how to go and find those artifacts. So, these limitations, they turn into some consequences. So if you're very manual centric, you need people to do those manual processes. So if you're growing, you're going to have no choice but to hire headcount, right? And that's not something typically companies want to do when growth occurs. Look at it from a new employee standpoint, right? If an existing employee leaves the company and all their processes are manual, and they got all that tribal knowledge up in their head, all that information is going out the door with them. So for a new employee, it just makes for a very steep learning curve for them. So this slide here, this represents all kinds of responsibilities of an accounting department, right? You got big stuff here like the reporting and regulation, communication, people, technology, and processes. They're all core tasks that have to get done. And it's just very, very challenging when these tasks are manual. And making it even more challenging is that all this stuff has to go within a deadline, right? There's always a month-end deadline or a quarter-end deadline or a year-end deadline that you got to meet. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your team's plate's overflowing with work. It doesn't matter if the CFO requests a new task or a project. All these things still got to get done on time. And when processes are manual, it just makes it very hard to do. Okay. So why is manual accounting not sustainable? So it really boils down to four things: time, risk, cost, and morale. Okay. So time's your typical, usually the biggest bottleneck. So look at the manual effort around a balance sheet reconciliation if you're doing it today in Excel. you got manual things like you got to enter your GL balance. You got to roll forward schedules like a prepaid schedule. You got to enter in all these supporting details into a spreadsheet. Then you got to compare the supporting details amounts to your general ledger balance. It's just very manual and very time consuming, and you can't get away from it. When things are manual, it also opens up the door for some risk, right? So it's hard to be 100% confident in your numbers. So when you have, all these manual processes and say you got 500 recs you need to be completed, it's hard to be 100% confident that all those recs have been completed. And it's hard to be 100% confident that they've been completed and that they're accurate. It's just hard to do without additional technology to use. And then what it's going to end up leading to is additional cost, right? So if you have all these manual processes, and again, if you have manual processes, you need people to do those processes. There's a salary expense to it. And then layer on top of that, if your company's growing, you're going to have to hire additional headcount to be able to do all those manual processes and handle that growth. And that's just not something typically companies want to do. And the last piece there is morale, right? So for some, manual processes can wear some people down, especially in a repetitive nature. So some people just don't enjoy that. So when you start having unhappy employees, that could lead to some turnover. And then that's going to lead to spending time on things like recruiting and interviewing and training new employees. And that's just not the value add activity that you want to spend your time doing. Okay. So at the end of the day, it's really all about capacity. There's a ton of benefits to using technology, one of which is providing your team the capacity to do more value add activities. So by spending less time on manual tasks, you're going to have the capacity to spend more time on things like managing your risk and strategic initiatives and optimizing your business processes. If your processes are manual, it's just going to reduce your capacity to do all those value add activities. Okay, so a little bit about BlackLine as a company, right? So they've been around a long time. They've created a very mature product. Okay, they got 3,600 customers, a big customer base. Their software is cloud-based, so you don't have to worry about things like backups or doing upgrades or anything like that. They are traded. They're publicly traded around the NASDAQ. So go out there and look at their financials. You'll see that they've done a ton of growth over the last several years. And you can see they heavily invest in R&D, about $50 million a year. They have big users, about 300,000 users, and that's across the globe. And they're continually recognized by Gartner as an industry leader in the accounting and close software space. All right, so the modern accounting playbook. So BlackLine created this methodology called the modern accounting playbook. Okay, and the way they came up with that was they studied the implementation and usage of their existing customer base. So when they did that, coming out of that, they found two main things. They found that one, that the implementation time for the software was taking a lot longer than expected. And the second thing is that although BlackLine offers a ton of different modules, there was actually only 4 modules that almost every client was using, okay? So those 4 capabilities that every client was using, the first one was their account reconciliation tool. So that's the tool that you would use to do like your balance sheet recs. The second one was their matching tool. So that's the tool where you could load your general ledger transactions and your bank transactions and have them match against each other. The third core capability was around task management. So that's like your checklist functionality. So you can create like a month-end checklist or an audit checklist. And the fourth core capability was around reporting. They have a very robust reporting engine. So due to the research, BlackLine created this bundling offering for new clients. And it consisted of these 4 core capabilities and also a pre-configured instance, software instance where some of those components were pre-configured. Okay, and because those components were pre-configured, it allowed for a much shorter implementation time. Okay, the implementation time for this is just 2 to 3 months. So what the benefits were in this offering were that you're getting capabilities that every accounting department uses. It's a very rapid deployment. You're going to be up and running in 60 to 90 days in a very quick win. So the foundation for the modern accounting playbook, it's going to do 3 main things for you. The first one here that you see, it's going to standardize your closed tasks and workflows. So you're going to be able to create to-do lists in the software. So things like, again, the month-end accounting task, your auditor request list, your certification checklist. And this is going to save you time and promote accountability. Everybody's going to know what they're responsible for. The second big piece of the foundation is it's going to automate repetitive work. So it's going to decrease a lot of manual effort that goes on today. So for example, the system can auto-certify reconciliations for you, okay? So for example, if you have an account that's got a 0 balance, or you have an account with no activity, or you have an account where it's a roll forward schedule and the roll forward amount matches up to the GL balance, the system can mark that reconciliation as complete, okay? No user intervention required. No one needs to look at it. No one needs to touch it. No one needs to do anything with it. The system does the work for you. Now, all the audit trail is behind the scenes that you could always review, but again, it doesn't require any of your users to take a look at it. Another big piece of the automation is around that transaction matching, right? So you're going to load your GL transactions. You're going to load the bank transaction, and the system's going to do the work for you of reconciling. So if the system gets an 80% reconciliation rate, now your users, all they got to focus on is that remaining 20%, just that huge time savings that it's going to get you. The third piece here is that it also puts into place controls and help monitor results. So you're going to get real-time visibility into your tasks and reconciliations. So there's dashboards and reports that you could open up, say it's day 5 of close, and you got 500 balance sheet recs that your team's responsible for. You could open up that dashboard and see all 500 of those reconciliations, and you can see where they're at. Hey, 200 haven't been started yet. 100 are in progress. 200 have been completed. It just gives you that instant visibility in there. The system's also going to ensure that supporting items match your GL balance on an account reconciliation. So the system, if the sum of your supporting items doesn't match up to your GL balance, the system is not going to let the user certify and complete that rec. Now you can build thresholds. You can say, hey, it could be within $100 or $1,000 or whatever it is. But if the total of those amounts are outside that threshold, the system's going to stop them from clicking that completion button. And the last piece is the segregation of duties. So for your tasks and your account reconciliations, you're going to be able to assign a workflow. So who's the preparer, who's who's an approver, who's a reviewer. You could actually set it up with as many levels deep as you want on there. So again, whoever prepares the account, the system's just going to stop them from also being the approver or the reviewer. There's just no way around that. Okay. All right, so this slide here represents some of the other modules that BlackLine offers. So we talked a little bit before, or I talked a little bit about before about the 4 core modules as part of the modern accounting playbook, right? Account recs, matching, task management, reporting. But up here represents some of the other modules that BlackLine offers that helps out automate some of the accounting processes. So for example, they have a journal entry module. So you can take data that you entered into BlackLine and you can create a journal entry file from it, okay? And then send that file over to your ERP system and upload it, okay? They have advanced transaction matching capability. So BlackLine could actually do matching on 3 different data sources. Okay. So if you wanted to do something like credit card to credit card statement to bank statement to GL, you could do that in the system. If you wanted to do something like purchase order to purchase order receipt to invoice, you could do that in the system here. It can handle any 3 data sources that you throw at it. And the third big module, just to point out, is they have a flux analysis module, right? So looking at your GL balance this month and comparing it against last month and making sure the delta isn't too big. So they have a module that will do that. You could say, hey, the delta should always be within $30,000. If if the month over month change is greater than that, this module will flag that account and it will require someone to go in and review and justify that difference. So what BlackLine suggested approach for this is to start off with these 4 modules here, right? Get them up and running within 2 to 3 months. And then as you need additional functionality with these other modules up here, implement them as a phase 2 approach, okay? And they're finding that that's the best approach for their customers, that 80% of their customers go through that process, okay? But there are customers who need some of these other functionalities up here, okay? And you can implement those in a phase 1 approach. It's just something we just need to talk about in more detail and just make sure that that if we're going to do it, that we're going to do it right. So it's really, again, it's just a suggested approach, but we could do this any which way that the customer needs. All right. So let's get into the software a little bit. Okay. So this is what the software looks like when an accountant first logs in to the system. Okay. So I'm logged in here as Kim Wilson. She is an accountant. Okay. And you can see down here, okay, the first thing I see down here is a reconciliation certification status dashboard. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the first core capability first. I'm going to run through the account reconciliation functionality right here. Okay. So when Kim logs in, this dashboard gives her full visibility into her reconciliation statuses. She's responsible for 78 that you can see over here. 57 of them. This bucket here represents what hasn't been started yet. 10 of them have been auto completed by the system, right? Maybe it was a 0 balance or no activity over here. And so you can see, she can come in here and see all the different buckets and where everything lands, okay? And it goes back to that instant visibility for the accountant. Now, just to note, if a manager or a controller were to log in, they would see the reconciliation statuses for the entire company. So if the entire company was responsible for, the entire accounting department was responsible for, 500 recs, then this number over here would say 500, and you'd be able to see how many, haven't been started yet, how many have been prepared, how many the system auto-certified for you. Again, instant visibility, right? It's day 5 of close. Controller needs, to know what the status is. Boom, just log right in here. Boom, this dashboard is going to tell you where everything is at. Okay. All right, so going back to the perspective of the accountant now. So this dashboard, gives that overall view. Now, if the accountant wanted to see the individual reconciliations, you'll notice all these numbers are in blue with a little underline. They're all hyperlinks. So she can come in here and click on the 78. And now that's going to take you to this grid that gives you a list of all the individual accounts that need to be reconciled. So just some of the key data points here, right? You're seeing things like entity and account description. Those are coming from your ERP system. Those are your GL segments. So if you have 5 or 6 segments in your GL string, you'll see all 5 or 6 of those over here, if you wish, if you wanted to set it up. You'll see other key data over here. You got your GL balance over here. You got the person responsible for doing the reconciliation. You got a due date over here. You have the status of each account. So not prepared means it hasn't even been started yet. Okay. And this grid you can filter on this grid and you can sort on this grid. So again, it's giving you that instant visibility, that instant information that you need at any point in time that you need. Okay. So now let's say you want to pull up a specific reconciliation. So you would find your reconciliation in this task, and then you would come over here and click on the edit button. Okay. And this is what a typical reconciliation looks like. Okay, this example here is a prepaid account. Okay, so let me just go through some of the key pieces on here. The first is your GL balance. Okay, now that amount is going to be imported from your ERP system. Okay, that comes in through an import. No user can ever change this GL balance amount down here. Okay, only a system administrator. So that ensures that this number right here is always correct. So you usually set up a schedule, maybe every 30 minutes or an hour, whatever. The GL balances get loaded in. This number gets updated, as needed, and it ensures that this number is always correct. Okay. The top section up here, this is your supporting items. This is actually your prepaid schedule up here, right? So you got things like your start date and your end date, and the item, and what the original amount was, and what the balance is. Okay. In this section over here, this unidentified difference, this is telling me the difference between my supporting items and my GL balance. And you can see that there's a $5,000 discrepancy. So what probably happened in this example was in the current month, there's probably a new prepaid item that was booked to the ledger. And that item needs to get entered up here into this prepaid schedule. Okay. Some other sections up here, you have a comment sections for every rec. Again, you get a timestamp, you get submitted by. With comments, it's pretty cool. You can use the @ symbol with the person's name, and they'll actually get an email with the comment and a link to this particular account. You get a supporting document section over here as well, right? So you can attach pretty much any type of document here. It can be a PDF, an Excel, Word file. So imagine you're running a receivables report out of your ERP system, and you pump it out to PDF, or an aging report of your AP stuff. You can take that information and just attach it right here to the reconciliation, right? So think about it in the current world, right? A lot of that stuff can be scattered across your entire network share. But with BlackLine, everything gets attached directly in here. All your information is directly in the rec, even comments, right? This typically, in the manual world, these are typically emails that kind of transfer back and forth to each other. Now everything here becomes a permanent record of the reconciliation, and everyone can find it. It's all in one spot. Okay. Now the last piece of the screen as well is you have a certification statement down here. Okay. So before a preparer or an accountant can complete the reconciliation, in this case, and this is optional, they have to read through each one of these statements and check mark these boxes. Okay. The system won't let them complete the rec until they do that. So for some companies, they like this level of granularity. They want this level of detail. But it's optional. Maybe you don't want it. So you could just, eliminate it from the reconciliation if you wanted to. And then the user, it's not shown here at the bottom, but there's a button called certify, which is like the final step in completing the rec. And these can be these can be account specific. So for some of your key accounts, you could have certain certification statement. Maybe for some of your non-important accounts, you can just eliminate these. Okay. So here's another piece of the rec right here. So what you're seeing up here, what this is telling you, this is the workflow. Okay, so this up here is telling you that Kim Wilson is the preparer. She's responsible for putting the reconciliation together. And this is the approver over here, Pat Black. This is telling me that he's the approver for me. The other big pieces here is purpose and reconciliation procedure. So here you could put detailed, detailed explanations, detailed information about this reconciliation's purpose and procedure on here. And what I like about this, okay, that this is a gift to anybody who's going to need to look or review this reconciliation downstream, right? So if, take for example, like a new employee starts, right? If things were manual, again, so, all that information's in someone's head, they go out the door. But if your purpose and your reconciliation procedure is filled out, and it's filled out really good, anyone new coming in can easily get up to speed on this rec, right? So take another example, not that an employee leaves, but say you have an employee that's out sick, right? It's the middle of close, they're out sick, they can't do it. You need another team member to pick up the slack. Gosh, if you had a really good purpose and reconciliation procedure right here, it's going to be really easy for that new person to understand what they need to do. Okay. The last piece here is the roll forward schedule. So whenever you create an amortization schedule within the software, it will create the roll forward schedule for you as well. So in this example here, the current month is actually June of 2021. And here you're seeing all your prepaid items, all the historical amounts, and what the future roll forward amounts are going to be on here. Okay. So that's covering the first core competency, right? The account reconciliation. So I just want to just take a step back real quick and just cover some key points on here. So, one of the big benefits of this is that it eliminated a lot of the manual processes. It automated them. So, for example, your GL balance, right? Your GL balance automatically came in. You didn't have to go pull up your balance sheet, look at it, and key this information in, right? Your prepaid schedule, the system rolled it forward for you. You didn't have to do anything in there, okay? And then the last piece was if the roll forward schedule, if this amount over here actually matched up to the GL balance over here, the system would have just reconciled this for you. It would have done all that work for you. You wouldn't even have to touch this, okay? Now, at the same time, some of the other benefits are big controls in place, right? We talked a little bit about it before, that if this GL balance doesn't match up to the supporting item amount, the system just won't let you reconcile it. It's going to stop you. So it puts that control in place to make sure that your reconciliations are done, correctly. The last really big user example that I love here is think about the audit process, right? At the end of the year, or whatever your cycle is, you get a request from the auditor. You got to provide all these reconciliations for them. Maybe you got to go and pull all those artifacts off the file share and email it off to the audit team. With BlackLine, you can just give them access to this rec. Everything that they need is in here. If you put in a really good purpose and reconciliation procedure, they're going to know exactly what this reconciliation is for. If you enter in all those supporting documents that they typically ask for, you're not going to need to go and pull that from a file share and email it to them. All that information is right here. You can give them read-only access to the system. Remember, it's cloud-based. You don't need a VPN to get into it. Give them access to the specific accounts, and that should eliminate so much of the work, right? They're not going to ask a ton of questions to your accounting team. Your accounting team's not going to spend time answering it. It should speed up, the time for the auditors to complete the audit as well, which could result in a lower audit bill for you. So that, again, that's the first core functionality. That was the account reconciliation piece. I'm going to go through now the second piece, which is the matching. Okay, and this is typically how matching is done today, just as an example, right? I think everyone's pretty familiar with this. You got to take your bank statement transactions, dump it to Excel. That's represented by this side. Got to take your general ledger transactions, dump it over here to this side. And now you need to manually do your rec, right? Hey, I got check number 17888 over here for amount $37,000. Hey, is it over here? Good, it's on the GL 178, $37,000. Mark it off, or in this case, color code it off. It's just a very manual and tedious process. So BlackLine has this really awesome transactions matching engine, okay, where it can do all that work for you, okay? So the way it works is you load your BAI file, right? That's your bank file. And you could load your either your GL transactions, but for some folks, it might be a point of sale transactions. And you just load it into BlackLine. And in BlackLine, you create all these pass rules that can be used, and the pass rules are used to compare records from one of those files and look for a matching record on the other. And so when it runs through those pass rules, it's going to, anything where it finds a successful match for, it's going to put it in this matches bucket. And anything that it can't find a match for, it gets put into this exceptions bucket. So just imagine if BlackLine could have an 80% success rate. So all 80% of those records going to be up here. And now the accountant just needs to focus on the exceptions, just the remaining 20%. It's just a huge time savings. So here, this is an example of pass rules. This is what pass rules look like down here, okay? You could have very, very simple pass rules. That's an example over here, this top one over here. You can say, hey, where the date and amount match on one file, go look for something similar in the other file. So if on my bank file, I have a $100 deposit on January 1st, and I have that same amount and date on my general ledger file, just go ahead and match it, kind of thing, pretty simple. But you can create some really advanced rules in here. So you can do things like one-to-many matches, many-to-one, many-to-many matches. You can create thresholds. So, if the amounts match within $1 or $100 or whatever it is, go ahead and match it. It's just really easy to create those rules, and it doesn't require any coding at all. The other thing about pass rules is you can create what they call automatic pass rules and also or suggested pass rules. So automatic pass rules, those are rules you're confident that they're 100% accurate. So if the records meet that pass rule, it's going to put them into this automatic bucket, and BlackLine considers it a final match. It's all good. But say there's a pass rule that isn't always 100% right. Maybe it's 90%. That rule is correct 90% of the time. Okay, BlackLine's going to put it into the suggested bucket. Okay, but it's still going to require someone to go in and take a look at it and verify that it's an accurate match. Okay, and then the user can kind of click that final button to push it to a final match on it. So this is kind of the result of the match set. So this is an account rec, but this is a cash account rec. This is basically your bank reconciliation or your final bank to book report. Okay, and BlackLine basically created it for you. So up here is the result of all that matching activity. Okay, so when I loaded the GL and I loaded my bank file, what this is telling me is that I have 216 records, automatic match. It was perfect. I got 2 records that were suggested. A user just needs to go in there and take a look at it, right? So for a user, again, they don't even need to look at this 216. Okay, the system did all the work. It's there if you need it for review or for audit purposes. You'll see a full audit trail behind the scenes, but there's nothing you need to do with it. And then all these other pieces over here were already done for you. The GL balance, right, comes in directly from your ERP system. The system calculates the difference between your bank and your GL balance. These deposits in transit, that actually came from the matching where someone went in and flagged 2 records that they were in transit. This entire report is all done for you. All the work's already done. And so this slide here, this represents the unmatched transaction. So just going back here, remember we talked about the 20% that goes into the exceptions bucket. Okay, that's what this represents over here. This is how you go in and you go and try to manually match. So what you're seeing here is on the left-hand side is your bank statement. Okay, your bank statement transactions. On your right-hand side is your general ledger transactions, right? And you got this nice grid, same thing as before. You got this nice grid with filter and sorting capabilities. And now you just need to go in and try to figure out what needs to match with what. In this example, this record over here, $42,000 matches up with these two records over here. So the user just comes in here and clicks. BlackLine has a nice helper up here. It tells you what the difference is between the two. It's got a nice green check mark because it's 0. And then you come over here and click the match button. Okay, and you're done. Okay. So that's the overview of the matching piece of it. Just keep in mind, so one of the big right there, obviously there's a big benefit around automation, that it's doing a lot of the work for you. But one of the really cool features about this is that you can schedule the automation to run on a regular basis. So for some companies, they'll actually do this on a daily basis. They'll actually set up a schedule to upload their general ledger transactions or their point of sale transactions and upload their BAI file from their bank and do that rec daily. So when the end of the month rolls around, this is already done. All the work's already been completed, right? The other thing doing that helps is that if anything goofy happens during the week, during the month, right? So something weird happens during the month, or one a big deposit didn't show up in the bank, but it's in your ledger, you're going to be notified about that right away, because you're going to have that instant visibility into this, and those reconciliations are running every day. So you're not going to have to wait till 2, 3, 4 months, 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road to be able to address that. Just a really awesome capabilities. Okay, so that was the second big core capability. The third core capability here is around task management. Okay, so that's your checklists, right? So things like period end close and audit requests and tax filings that you use it for. Okay. So again, kind of going back, when a user logs in, we'll see this second dashboard up here, this task certification status dashboard up here. Okay? And what this is telling me is for Kim Wilson, the accountant, that she's got a lot of tasks she's responsible for. She's responsible for 185 tasks. Okay. And if a manager or a controller were to log in here and they had the proper access, they would see the task statuses for all the tasks across the company on here. Again, just giving that instant visibility to it. You're in the middle of close, right? You want to see where all the tasks are at. Boom, you just log in right here. You can look at this dashboard, gives you a quick understanding of where the team's at. Okay. So if I click on one of these hyperlinks, like 184, it's going to take me to a grid, right? It's going to show me all my tasks that make up that number on here. So you got things like the task description, some of these key data points. You got your entity, that's usually a GL segment, come from ERP. You got categories assigned to these tasks, right? So some of these tasks here are month-end tasks that need to be done. Some of these tasks are PBC. PBC is an audit request task. You can see here you got a due date. You got the person responsible for doing the task. You got the status. A lot of them haven't been done yet. And you have this other icon over here, which is the dependency icon. So what you can do in here is you could actually create tasks that are dependent on other tasks, right? So if you have a parent task, I'm gonna have a parent task like, hey, print out the final financial review book for review with the CFO. Your children tasks are going to be things like, do your balance sheet recs, do your bank recs, and that kind of stuff. So you can set up those dependencies on however you wish. Okay. Now, and again, so if you want to see more details now, so you got all your tasks in here. If you want to see open up a specific task, now you just come over here and click the edit button, and boom, opens up. Here comes your task itself. So you can see it has a very similar look and feel to the account recs. You'll see that across the entire software. It's got a very standard format to it. Okay. So again, up here, you got your purpose, you got your instructions, you got a comment section, you can attach your supporting documents, you can set up your certification statements. And once all those are checks, you can click the certify button. Okay. Again, a really good use case for that I like for tasks is right. So every year you're going to get a task list from your auditors that they're going to request all a bunch of things. Okay. So in environments where I've been at, usually that list gets sent to like a manager or a controller, and they got to go out and play quarterback and try to go gather that information from all the accounts, so forth. But what BlackLine can do is you can take that list that they send you, usually it's in Excel, and you can upload it into BlackLine. Okay, and BlackLine is going to create the entire task list for it. And you could assign users who are responsible for each task, right? And so for each user who needs to provide some kind of artifact, in my world, I was the financial systems manager, so I always had to provide a security report from the financial systems, right? Who can post a journal entry, who can kind of check, that kind of thing. Instead of emailing that, all over the place, I could just attach that document to this task here in BlackLine, okay? And what that's going to do is that's instantly going to let the accounting manager know that the task has been completed. And then all you need to do is give the auditor access to this specific task here. There's no more need to email all that stuff back and forth to the auditor. The auditor can just go directly into the task and pull all these supporting documents that they need. So they can come in here and pull my, my security report, okay? Just a huge time saver for everybody. Okay. All right, so the fourth core capability is around reporting. So BlackLine has a really good reporting engine. This here is an example of an account reconciliation status report over here. So again, you just kind of see it's got your it's showing you your account reconciliation name. It's telling you what the GL balance is. It's telling you what the unidentified amount is in percentage. That's actually the difference between the GL balance and your supporting items. You got some other categories over here. Is the account key or non-key? What's the risk factor for the account, high, medium, or low? It just gives you all that information, all that visibility here in one shot. So BlackLine comes with a bunch of reports out of the box, but you can also customize those reports if you want, or build one from scratch. And the report builder is super easy to use. It doesn't require an IT person. It's just actually an example of it. This is kind of what it looks like over here. It's all object based. There's no coding or SQL coding or anything like that. Anyone can build a report, and all the data points within BlackLine are reportable. Okay. All right, so that's the fourth core capability with the modern accounting playbook. So now let's just jump in and talk a little bit about some existing clients and customer success stories here. So the first one here is GoodRx. So they provide prescription drugs, and their goals were to boost efficiency, scalability, and accuracy. And they're a growing company, but they have a ton of dormant accounts. Okay, so they were able to save 30% of their time using the auto certification features, right? So again, if the account had a zero balance or no activity in the current month, the system just auto reconciled it for them. Okay. Pluralsight. So they're an online training and education provider, and their goal was to decrease the time to close. So they were heavy users of Excel, and it exposed them to lots of risk and compliance issues. By using BlackLine, they decreased the close by 33%. Okay, yeah, just saving saving a huge amount of time. They were able to, get all those financial reports out sooner. And the last customer here is SiriusXM. Pretty much everybody knows about them. They got a huge customer base, which means they got, huge transactions that they got to reconcile. So their goal was to automate matching of those high volume transactions. So what they were able to do was auto reconcile 99.9% of their credit card transactions. Right? Again, the system did all the work for them, took the need out for a human intervention on there. They also used the journal entry module as well, in that they were able to automate 50% of their journal entries also. So it was just a huge time saving. Okay, and that covers it. I appreciate everyone taking the time to to listen in today, and I'll pass it back to you, Ken.
All right, Adam, thank you very much. That was great. So just in conclusion, so I'm not an expert the way that Adam and his team are, but my takeaways from this, when I sort of really just get a sense of what BlackLine really can do, and what the value is, I noticed several things, Adam, and I don't know if this is if you, I mean, I'm sure you agree, but what your thoughts are on this. But I see, first of all, that it's just very easy to use. It's clean. It's an intuitive interface. It seems very simple. It seems very easy to understand and work with. It didn't seem cryptic or complicated or anything like that. And it provides so much information that you can navigate through however you want, right? So, that, in a traditional sort of manual accounting close process, there's so much detail, there's so much information, but it's all over the place in so many different forms and formats, locations, spreadsheets, et cetera, documents. And this just provides an easy, navigable interface all in one location. I also noticed, of course, that it automates so much of the manual effort that we go through to manipulate the data and do the calculations and perform things like the matching and et cetera. There's a lot of just a tremendous amount that it automates, obviously saving time and effort along the way. And the other thing I really like about BlackLine is that it organizes everything in one place, right? So not just all the data and the organization of task management so that you really get a way to organize your team across the organization through the process, but even things like supporting documents and such. So it becomes sort of the single repository for the entire financial close process. And that obviously has many benefits, both internally and with respect to information that we need to provide to the accountants, the auditors, et cetera. So it's just seems to have so many benefits, which I think are really fantastic. This was just an overview. We are happy to take you through this more deeply and talk a little bit more about your process and how your organization works and how BlackLine may be a fit for you. Take you into a deep dive of the actual product itself in action. We'd be happy to do that. So if you are interested in learning more about the product and how it can help in your organization specifically, please reach out to us. Some of you we already work with today, and you have people at Revelwood that you know, and you can reach out to them directly. Others may be new to who we are, to Revelwood. But you can reach out to us at info@revelwood.com right here on this slide, and we'll forward your email immediately to the right person who can get back to you and talk to you a little bit about that. And we'll reach out to you anyway, just to find out more and follow up and see what you thought and what you felt about what you saw today. One other thing I want to mention, just a point of housekeeping. If you have any questions, some of you may have entered questions in the Q&A panel. We'll get back to you specifically on those from the Q&A. You can also ask those questions in any email, follow-on email that you send, or whoever you're speaking to as well. So I want to thank Adam for the presentation today, and I thought it was a great job. And I also want to thank all of you for attending. Really appreciate your time, and we will be in touch soon. Thank you.